acquisition, and they wanted to look at our technology and our data to help them populate expense reports so that the users didn't have to. Our data is fairly robust. It's extremely rich, and they wanted to take advantage of that prior to that acquisition. Since then, we really looked at it and said, you know, we can use this data and use this experience and the enormous amount of parsing templates and sender addresses to help companies attract leakage and attack it in a different way, help them strategically manage it instead of reactively just figuring it out. So our new product, it's called Traxo CONNECT. It's a platform that we launched that allows corporate clients to have real-time visibility into this book data that happens outside the program. So it's real-time, it's seamless, and we help you in 3 ways. We help you gain visibility into the blind spend. We can help you manage it proactively, action it, as well as push it to any type of third-party providers that you use today. So since we started this, we have connected with dozens of clients in expense management, duty of care, risk management, TMCs, a lot that you're probably using today that you don't know that we're behind the scenes. So let's start with the overarching kind of issue. So we all know that travel and entertainment is the second or third largest controllable expense that corporations have today. And more than half of it is invisible because of where it takes place, because it takes place outside of the program, making your job extremely difficult, like kind of herding cats. You've got suppliers that are incenting your employees to book directly on their sites with better rates, loyalty points, availability, and this impedes your ability to do your job. It affects program compliance, driving travelers to do what they want to do. It affects negotiated rates and your ability to hit those negotiated rates and fulfill those commitments and offer those prices to your employees. But there's a significant safety concern and a liability that it provides and that it exposes your company to, because there's not duty of care on these trips. Today, if you wanted to get this information, you'd have to wait until 30 to 60 days after the trip, reconcile an expense report with corporate card data, with travel booking data. And even then, it's nearly impossible to really hammer in on which data is the important data. And there's been another 60 days of leakage that has occurred when you're doing that. So what I want to talk to you about is how we do this and how we capture this data for you. So there's basically 4 ways that this is done. Email forwarding is probably the most common. It's probably the least successful because you're relying on the traveler that went outside the program to begin with to forward an email back to the program. A lot of times they forget. So we're looking at that as it's good, but sometimes it doesn't happen, actually, the majority of the time. Then there's also supplier-direct integration, which we do. So we can integrate directly with suppliers, but from a coverage perspective and from a sheer scale standpoint, it's almost impossible to do because it's a one-on-one direct integration. It's tedious, it's expensive. And if you look at the solutions today that have relied on those 2, forwarding emails as well as integrating directly with the suppliers, I think 7 years in, 8 years in, it's still not even up to 30 or 40 suppliers that they're integrated with. And that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface as to where your travelers are going when they book. To take it a step further, we've also partnered with Outlook and Microsoft in 365, where there can be an Outlook add-in that there's a Traxo button that can be configured in. So instead of having to forward the email, they just press on the button and it forwards it to us as well. Again, a little bit less intense than an email, but still user work. And the last one that I want to talk about is our proprietary technology that allows us to utilize technology that exists in email servers today to automatically detect these bookings and get them back to the travel manager in real time. So I need to preface this by saying we don't scan inboxes. We do not read corporate emails, and there is not software that is installed behind the server. Basically, it's a spam filter or a whitelist or a blacklist. It's called mail transport rules. And it keys on the sender email address. So we provide your data IT department a rule set. And whenever an email comes in that has that email address in the sender, that's when this kicks in. So there are 4 different ways to aggregate this data, to get it seamlessly into one platform to give you the insight and the comprehensive coverage you need. So Traxo CONNECT, which is our platform, is really comprised of three things. Traxo Filter, which is what I just discussed with you about how we aggregate the data and automatically capture the bookings as they're purchased, regardless of where they book. Traxo Console, which is basically an intense dashboard that the travel manager has access to in real time to look at these bookings, export them to a report, or manage them, provide light duty of care. And then what we call our marketplace, which are the third-party integrators that we are integrated with, so that we can take this data and push it downstream on your behalf to the partners that you're using. So if I were to paint a picture of leakage today, it's really simple. The traveler goes ahead and books with the supplier. Supplier processes the booking as normal. They forward the email to the traveler, hits the corporate email server, goes back to the traveler. It's pretty much where it stops. It's a closed loop. It's very closed off, and no one has access to this with the exception of the traveler. And that causes some issues, right? So there's compliance, there's duty of care. You don't have visibility into that spend. Not until well after the spend happens. I kind of say that's like managing your diet after you eat, right? So I'm going to go to a restaurant and then I'm going to eat McDonald's and I'm going to say, wow, I probably shouldn't do that again. Not really helping myself out if I do it that way. With Traxo Filter, we've expanded it a bit. So the traveler does the same thing they do. They don't change a thing. They book with the supplier, email gets sent, and the minute that rule says okay, we've identified now that this email is sent from noreply@delta.com or reservations@hilton.com or bookings@booking.com, whatever the email address is that sends that confirmation email. That's what it triggers. The traveler gets the email as normal, but then it simultaneously forwards it onto the Traxo parsing engine. We then add it to the console, we organize it, we structure it, and in real time, you as a travel manager then has visibility into this data. So it's real-time visibility into the data. It's comprehensive with actionable pre-trip data that you can then work on, look at, you can address, you can nudge people back into compliance if you want, you can manage it strategically and say, you know what, I'm going to just manage it off to the right so that I have an understanding of what they're doing before they do it. So Traxo Console. I'm going to give you a live shot of the console today. So this is an actual picture of our console. We are a very small company. We don't have a managed program. So you have ability to look at your travelers, who's traveling today, who's flying today. You can view it in list form. And again, this is all the leakage data and it's all in real time. So I can look at this data in list form, or I can look at it in map form. So here's my list. Or I can click over to the map, see at any given time where my travelers are traveling all over the world based on the data that I've received. Now you're probably thinking, okay, that's great, but it can get pretty detailed because if it covers a large time span. So you can say, okay, I just want to have this data between this date and that date, a week, a month, 2 months, a quarter, however you want to carve it up. You can also put the destination. So if I want to see, okay, there are wildfires going to California, and I want to see how many people that I know are staying there, but didn't book their hotel through the corporate travel agency. You're not going to be able to know where they're staying if they booked rogue. You can here. You can see when they booked the flight, start end date, or you can go ahead and say, hey, look at that. I want to just look at Chad. I want to see where he's booking. So you have the ability to manipulate this data, how you need it and when you need it. You also can export it to a CSV file. And what that does is it gives you the ability to then put it in a Microsoft spreadsheet. You can go ahead and do anything you need to do with this data in real time. So once it's in the console, it gives you the ability then to do multiple things with it. As I said, we have the ability to push it downstream to the service providers that you use. So we can automatically send it to duty of care. So when they book outside the program, there's duty of care applied to these trips. We can have it sent to expense reports. We have the ability with our parsing technology to break out detailed expense information. So you're not just going to get, it was $915 total. We can separate out the hotel room, the tax, the parking, so that you get this data and you can really lock in and see what was spent versus what was used. And then we can also send it to business analytics like Domo, Tableau, DVI. If you use any type of travel management company like Executive Travel, we can always send this back to them as well. So if you wanted this out of booking data to dump right back in to a dashboard that's provided with your in-program bookings, it can be integrated into a mid-office. Passive segments can be written based on this data. So we can pretty much do anything you want with this data because it's all API based. So it's very easily passed to whatever endpoint you want it to be passed to. If you happen to use reshopping companies such as TripBam and Yapta, we're very close partners with both of them. And what we're finding is companies now are using this and saying, I can have them reshop my in-program bookings. That's great. But if 45% of my hotel bookings are going outside the program, I don't know what cost savings opportunities are there. Well, you can with us, because we can take these leaked bookings, we can send them to TripBam. TripBam then can run the same analysis and the same shopping exercise and provide an ROI on savings in real time, as opposed to trying to figure out, well, 60 days ago, what was the price of that hotel when they booked it? It's almost impossible to find out. So if you look at what we do and how we do it, we really kind of take leakage and not only enable you to address it and figure out exactly where it's going, but we give you the opportunity to manage it strategically in a number of different ways, but do it prior to the money being spent should you choose to do that. So we have companies that we work with that want to do any of three things. They say, look, my predominant goal here, my priority is compliance. I want to build compliance. Well, you have the ability to know who's booked, when they've booked, where they've booked before they go on the trip. So you can change that. Other companies say, you know what, I want to strategically manage this. I want to say, okay, I don't know, to be honest with you, if leakage is something that can be solved. I don't know. Well, you have the ability to do that because we can push it to all the downstream providers. You can strategically manage it as a category in parallel, the same way the TMC manages your in-program booking. And there are some companies, believe it or not, that want to give open booking a shot. They want to say, you know what, I want to let my travelers go wherever they want to go. I'm not saying I suggest that, but if they want to do it, we can facilitate that and we can help them accomplish that goal. Again, we've done this for 10 years now. We've worked with a number of companies that are predominant in not only the corporate, but the leisure travel industry as well. And our technology is very strong, providing you real-time insight into off-platform corporate travel. My name is Chad Costa. I'm going to put my information up here, and I thank you very much for your time today, and I hope to hear from you soon.
Hey, thank you very much, Chad. That was great. The best part about it is you left me about 3 or 4 minutes here to answer any questions from the audience. So do me a favor, if anyone has any questions about Traxo, how it works, how it would be implemented, any questions whatsoever, please type them in the chat box in the window to the side, and we'll be happy to answer them. But I'm actually going to start off with a question from me. One of the things that I know a lot of companies work with, granted, I'm in the marketing side, however, I do a little bit with IT, and I understand that a lot of my clients, one of their biggest concerns is security. So with a product that is taking, not necessarily taking a look at the emails, but basically getting their information from the emails, is there anything that needs to be installed on a server? Is there anything that actually reads the emails, or is this all kept private?
So that's a great question. And, you know, I don't want to blame Google or Yahoo, but no, we don't read anything. There's nothing that's actually installed. We work with the data IT department to configure the rule set. So prior to the email even hitting the inbox, it gets forwarded to us based on the sender address. So there's nothing that we're reading in the body of the email unless it's, you know, unless it's confirmed that it's a confirmation, in which case we just take the travel data. From a data security perspective, we are housed with Amazon Web Services. We have data warehouses in both Europe and the United States. We are GDPR compliant. You know, obviously, if some of our larger customers that we've worked with have provided us to do InfoSecs and evaluation forms, which we do, So in the presentation, and not in this one, but the one that, Brian, you're going to send out, there is a link to the Traxo security on our website, which can satisfy all of those needs from a data privacy or from a data security perspective. And no, we don't read an email.
I actually have a follow-up question I received from Sarah here, and it kind of goes along with that GDPR. What she mentioned was that she has travelers all over the world. According to this, it's primarily Europe. But is this a solution that is international, or is it strictly within the U.S.?
So it is a global solution. We recognize and we can process data in over 40 different languages. It appears in the dashboard in that native language, right? So we don't translate it into English or do a currency conversion. But we have the ability, we have over 8,000 parsing templates from suppliers all over the world in every business line, air, car, hotel, rail, you name it, we have it. We've been doing that for 10 years. So we have the ability to recognize that, organize the data, and structure it and put it back. So it is a global solution.
Okay. And Sharon asks, is there a way to filter between companies? I believe what she means from the follow-up there is between hotels. So if it's a chain, whether it be Marriott or IHG or Choice or whatever, I think that's what she's asking.
So if I can recognize that, and I'll give it a shot. So yes, there is. So one of the things that we provide, and our parsing technology is extremely robust, is we can differentiate not only the chain but the local property. So you can see the chain, right? If it's Marriott, the property, which Marriott, and then the booking channel. So you can see if it was booked on Marriott.com, Booking.com, Expedia, wherever it was booked. So you have a lot of information that will separate the hotels out for you. It's not just going to go, hey, it was Marriott. No, it's going to tell you exactly what Marriott, the address of that Marriott, and where it was booked.
Sounds good. Sharon, follow up with me afterwards. If that wasn't answered to your satisfaction, let me know and I'll get the information out to you. All right, well, that concludes today's Travel Tech in 20 presented by Executive Travel. I'd like to thank you all for taking the time out of your busy day to join us for this technology review. I know there's a million things that you can spend your time on, and we're honored that you spend it with us. I'd like to thank Chad Costa at Traxo for presenting, but I have a couple quick reminders for you before we end the webinar. First, you'll be receiving an email in the next day that'll have a recording of this presentation for you to review, as well as the actual presentation itself, in case you need to open it up and get a refresher. If you have any further questions, want to schedule a demo, anything of that, Chad's information is on the screen there. Please contact him. If you feel more comfortable contacting us and working through us, we are happy to facilitate that for you. And then lastly, I'm excited to announce 2 new Travel Tech in 20 webinars that we have coming up. You've already seen Flight Stats, which will be March 21st, which is the next one. But I'm excited to announce 2 brand new companies that have agreed to do this with us. Prime Numbers will be on April 25th, and Skyroam will be on May 16th. Be on the lookout for future emails. We'll get those sent out to you to sign up. But thank you again for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.